Hello, hello everyone. Hi, woohoo! I can almost see you. Great, it's so bright. So yeah, this talk was originally supposed to be about the sound design of Badland 2, but I decided last minute, like last week, I was like, can I change to something more current? So they said, yeah, sure, and I'm gonna be talking about my game, Tormentor X Punisher. So yeah, hi, I am Joonas Turner, like mentioned before. I'm a sound designer and voice actor. Some of the games I worked on, Nuclear Throne, Badland 1 and 2, Broforce, Downwell, Environmental Session Alpha, Fara, Angry Birds Transformers, and so on and so on and so on. Some of these games you might have heard of, some might be new, so cool. So I work at eStudio in Helsinki, Finland, where I run our video game sound department, which is pretty much me and Niilo Takalainen. It's a huge department, right? So yeah, and I guess now also a game designer. That's a surprise for me as well. So yeah, I'll give you a small history about Tormentor X Punisher. So I made my own games for ages now. Like even before I did Sounds 4 games, I made my own games as a hobby. So just like this game, it started as a hobby project as test game where I wanted to make something for the controllers. I had never done a game for a controller myself. So it's like, how can I make these buttons relate to something that's happening on screen? And it was really exciting for me, believe it or not. And I also wanted to make like a Geometry Wars like a high score, you know, enemies coming around, kind of a game. So I started making this demon shooter idea for some reason, and this was like almost 2 years ago when I started making this project just for fun. And then when I had the game kind of running, I asked my friend Tuukka Stefansson, he's actually English, even though the name is pretty Swedish, to do graphics for me and just, you know, just someone to spar ideas and jam with, and he was like, yeah, sure. And that's what we did. We just continued making this small tester game into something. He was doing cool graphics, like really 90s graphics, as you can see. and yeah, then we just continued making the game. And then when the game was about done, I decided to show it to a bunch of friends, as you do. When I went to events, I had it on my laptop and showed it to people, and they were like, oh shit, wow, what is this game? And they're like, hey, wait, is someone publishing this? I'm like, no, this is a shitty game, what the hell? And then when enough people started asking me, is someone going to publish this? I was like, maybe this might mount to be something. And then when I thought about it, I was like, well, what if? What if I tried to make a game, like a commercial game myself? And then I met Bo Bliff. He made Samurai Gun and Hyperlight Drifter and games like that. Oh, one of the guys who made Hyperlight Drifter. And I met him at GDC 2015 in San Francisco. And I showed him the game, and he was like, oh man, this is rad. And I was like, would you like to work with me on this game? Like do the actual programming? Because my programming is awful. And he was like, yeah, sure. It's like, shit, Bo just said yeah. And then later on, I bumped into my friend Vlad Miku in Helsinki during an IGDA gathering thing, and he was like, oh, have you ever talked to Raw Fury about publishing this game? I was like, no, I haven't. Well, do you want to do an intro? And he did an intro for me and Raw Fury. And Raw Fury, I mean, how many of you know who Raw Fury is? Woohoo! Yeah, they're a publisher here in Sweden, and half of them are in the States. And they were like, yeah, sure, this game looks fun, let's do this. And I was like, oh, wow, I guess I'm making my own game then. So yeah, I'll just show you a trailer, like we did an announcement trailer at the end of summer, this summer, and I'll just show that to you quickly to kind of know what we're talking about. Can I have sound on the trailer? Oop. And this video has the best YouTube comments ever. People are hating the trailer, which is really awesome. Actually, I don't know. For me, that's weirdly kind of interesting. Like, people are like, oh, that's so edgy, Dad. I'm like, oh, wow. Huh? Apparently, I'm someone's dad now. So that's how it works, right? So, so yeah, as you could see from those few seconds of gameplay, well, pretty edited gameplay, and it's a high-paced, high-score arcade shooting game. A bit like Geometry Wars and stuff like that, but just way faster and a bit more gory. Oh, and by the way, sorry, there's a bit of swearing in the game, so I forgot to say that before that. But, whoops. Permanent damage done. Fuck. Damn it. So, shit. So yeah, it's a high-paced, high-score arcade shooting game. A twin-stick one, that's it. That's what it is. So, essentially, yeah, I'm going to just talk about the game idea a bit. So essentially, I want to know HUD elements or as little UI elements as possible. So, you know, like no need to go through endless menus while you play the game. I just want the game to feel as flowy as possible. When you play it, there's like no pressing start. There's no pausing, none of that. You just play it and just soak it in and everything's happening. And there's nothing to really indicate anything. That's great. And I don't know what that was, but yeah, it's great. And yeah, as little UI elements as possible. So I wanted to keep the game as simple as possible, but yet have depth. So if you imagine stuff like Spelunky or Super Great Box or Luftrausers or Geometry Wars and games like that, they're not really the most complex games in that sense that they're not like a 70-hour full story, history thingy. Instead, it's just a small, nice game that's a game, not a movie disguised as a game. And that's what I like. But they still have a lot of depth, like Spelunky. How many of you know Spelunky? Great, because you should. So like that game, it's pretty simple, but then again, there's so much depth to it, like all these hidden levels and all these interactions and stuff. And I was like, oh man, I want to do that. So yeah, I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. Oh, by the way, this talk is really me, but I hope that you can kind of get some ideas out of this talk and apply them to your stuff. So yeah, we have a really short development cycle. That's kind of also part of our idea that we just wanted to keep it as like a really like when we can come up with an idea, put it in. If it doesn't work out, if it works, keep it in. It's a bit of like game jam, a long game jam. But yeah, we have 6 months to make the game from nothing to a release. And we have already made the game. I mean, it's now 3.5 months that we've made the game, and we have 2.5 months left. So essentially, end of next month, all content is in, and we have like 1 month of polishing and network stuff. In a month. So the whole game happens in one arena. There's one level in the game. There's no more levels than one. But that one level changes while you play the game. So in a sense, that one arena actually becomes multiple levels depending on how you play the game. I'll get to that a bit later. I only wanted a few weapons for the player. So I have a machine gun and a shotgun. So the machine gun is just a basic 10 bullets, quick shooting weapon with infinite range. And the last bullet in the machine gun is a fire bullet. And that fire bullet indicates to you, hey, I'm out of ammo. Again, like I wanted to minimize the use of UI. So instead of using an UI to tell you, hey, I'm out of bullets, I used an actual gameplay mechanic, kind of altering that weapon to be another weapon to let you know that you're out of bullets. And then you use the shotgun to reload your machine gun. And the shotgun is a short-range spread weapon. And why the shotgun reloads the machine gun is because to me, I've never really liked reloading in video games. It's always felt like it's time out of doing actions, if that makes sense. Like I always like when things are like just happening and you are doing stuff, awesome. Then like stop, reload, back in there, stop, reload. To me, that's not the most fun mechanic. I mean, it's good to pace and balance stuff, sure, but it's kind of boring. So instead, I wanted that reloading to feel good and actually have a proper function. So why not just put a shotgun to it? And eventually, that shotgun actually became kind of the main weapon, because you get more points from killing with the shotgun, and the shotgun also interacts with stuff. That's just how I made it. And then I realized, oh wow, this is a pretty fun mechanic. So now I have a weapon that gets me out of trouble quickly, and then I have this weapon that does, like, gives me more points than this weapon, but it's actually harder to use in a sense. But I also reloads this one, so now I have like actions for everything. And the shotgun is also upgradable. I made it even better by when you do these various interactions, it actually upgrades the shotgun. So for instance, the last bullet of your machine gun, when it does the fire bullet, you can shoot the shotgun through this fire to create a fire explosion. And if you shoot an enemy directly through the fire with the shotgun, that will start to slowly upgrade your shotgun bullets to be permanently fire bullets, like fire shotgun bullets. And when you do various upgrades, they will never take away upgrades that you previously gained in a run. Instead, they will always add on top of these upgrades, so eventually you have like just a flurry of destruction happening when you press a button. So yeah, wow, that was a lot of info. But yeah, simple, but yet have depth. So yeah, interactions between stuff, that's another thing, because I wanted to have like that depth like Spelunky has, where I have shotgun bullets interacting with fire, with walls, they bounce off walls, but if you have a wall made out of meat, for some reason, it would just break the meat wall and stuff like that. And the enemies have interactions, like enemies interacting, like let's say you have fire on the ground, an enemy runs on top of the fire, they set on fire, when they set on fire, they run to another enemy and they both set on fire and stuff like that, or like electricity and so on and so on and so on. And I also wanted the level props to have interactions. So let's say you have a huge circular saw just going around the level and it hits a wall, it would just break the wall and stuff like that, you know. Like small interactions, a bit like in Spelunky where you drop a rock in front of a arrow trap, it shoots an arrow, it hits a wall and then it hits an enemy and so on and so on. So I kind of wanted that same thing to happen in this game. Again, simple but lots of depth. And everything is one hit principle. So the player dies out of one hit, the enemies die of one hit, all the bosses die of one hit, and all the breakable interaction stuff all break from one hit. So everything in the game is one hit. That already kind of simplifies my design so that I have to design everything around this mechanic. Because again, this is one of these things where I never really enjoyed. To me, it's never been that much fun, like playing a game where you just shoot an enemy like 150 bullets and you're just, you know, waiting for this fucker to die. Instead, I was like, done, next. Like, I don't know, I'm a bit ADHD, so I guess that kind of makes me happier. So after death, super fast to get back into play. So as the game is kind of small, we can just have the game so fast that as soon as you die in the game, just press a button, you're back in the game. Like, it restarts like right away, instantly. So yeah. Now we get into enemies. So, how we treat enemies are, the enemies are kind of pacing the game and at the same time teaching the player new things before other things happen. So we have these enemies called boys, which are just basic demons running at you. It's just basic demons, right? Running at you and swarming. So what these do are, like right away when you start the game, you start from the middle of the level. You have 3 enemies spawn right away at start, and they run at you from all angles. That already teaches you the dual stick movement, like okay, one's coming from there, one there, and one there, and you're here. So you have to kind of rotate 360 to either like kill them all or run away from them, and that already teaches you the 2 analog sticks right away. And also when they run at you, they're kind of fast, but they stop to hit you, so you have this time to kind of use the weapons and kind of learn the weapons with the first enemies already. Just a basic, you know, of course kind of a thing, but kind of not that obvious for everyone, especially when it's a new game. So I kind of teach that with the boys, and then later in the game, you know, you have millions of them just running at you, and they act kind of funny. And then I have shielders who act as moving walls. So usually the thing is when you have like lots of those normal boys, people usually run to the corner of the level and they're like, I outsmarted the game, this is easy. Boom, suddenly a enemy spawns with a shield and starts walking towards you like, haha, fuck you. And then you shoot at him and he has a shield, you know, your bullets bounce and break and stuff. So you gotta run away from the corner before he squishes you in the walls. And then you have to kind of come up with, okay, how am I gonna slay this shielder? You have to kind of think of like a quick mini puzzle in the game in a sense. And he has a shield in the front but nothing in the back, so then later on, like all these spawning things happen like maybe 20 seconds from each other. So then we have wizards spawning, and they are the first shooting enemies. And that teaches you, okay, enemies can shoot at me, now I have to watch out for projectiles. But also these projectiles kill other enemies, which you can use for your advantage, or you can even try to use the shotgun with the wizard's bullets to see if there's an interaction happening there, and so on and so on. And then last, this is a horrible name for an enemy, but it's a project name that just stuck. So we have these enemies called Bollocks, and they are introducing more awareness of the playfield. So they puke out these slime balls that if you shoot at them, those balls grow bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So that kind of teaches you to kind of not just shoot aimlessly, but to actually pay attention off the playing field. So yeah, then we get to bosses. So all of these enemy things are just kind of preparing you for the bosses and what they do, because they're way meaner. So again, bosses are one-hit kill, just like anything else, and they act as mini action puzzles. So everything dies at one hit, but I didn't want the bosses to be like snap, dead, done. That would be kind of boring and anticlimactic. So instead, I'll spoil one of the bosses. So we have this one boss that's a builder boss, just carries this huge wall with him and throws that wall at you. Like every now and then, like a new wall appears, throws it. So you have to kind of. And you can see that his chest is a bit different colored than the enemy design in general. So that pretty much, you might go like, I wonder if that's the weak point. And as soon as he throws the thing, you have this small 1 second gap of like attempting to kill the boss. So it's like mini action puzzles like that. It's really Nintendo Zelda-esque in a sense, but then again, it works and it's kind of fun. And also, like I mentioned, he throws walls, which change the level as you fight them. So like, let's say you're running around this empty level, he throws a wall, the wall hits the end of the level wall, and that will like shake the arena, and then wall blocks fall from the sky. And these are permanent for the run until you die, and it wipes everything over again. But yeah, like this, when those walls drop, and depending on how you dodge them, it starts to create like rooms or pillars and stuff like that, like just cover for you in the level. So that one level is already morphing with this simple idea. And the longer you fight the boss, the more crowded the room will get, which is potentially a good thing for you, but can also be a bad thing for you. Like if you create too many dead ends for yourself, that's kind of scary. And then I have like other bosses, like let's say I have this big huge boss who eats other enemies and pukes them out and creates like acid pools and stuff. Again, an acid pool, you can't probably run top of yourself, but when other enemies run at it, they die on it and stuff like that. You can kind of use the bosses to create new tactics for yourself for the level. And so yeah, when you kill a boss, they also change the level upon death. So let's say you kill this enemy who has a huge circular saw, and you kill it, and the saw releases and starts going around the level. So now you have this extra hazard on top of the level. Oh, I need to be a bit faster. So yeah. So the bosses change the level, so that empty arena actually becomes levels. We use a bunch of camera tricks just to bring more weight and make the game just more interesting and a bit more hectic. So what I mean by hectic and interesting is a screen shake for the machine gun, just a basic horizontal, and you're like, oh, wow. Like, have you ever played Nuclear Throne? Has anyone? Oh, a few people, good. So like in Nuclear Throne, we used a bunch of screen shake, but I'm using even more on this game. So yeah, the screen shake when you shoot with the machine gun. Then I have a camera zoom for the shotgun, making it feel way more weighty. So the machine gun, basic screen shake, you're like, okay, this feels like shooting. But then when you switch to the shotgun, it's like zooms in real quick into the level. And like that small zoom, it's just a one frame zoom thingy, but this just makes crazy impact. I'll show you some gameplay soon and you'll see. The camera follows for boss spawns and player death. So let's say a boss spawns, the game pauses for like 2 seconds, zooms into the boss, then boss is like, and zooms back to the player, and you're like, oh shit. And player death, when someone whacks you and you fly away, the camera kind of stops and you fly and goes back to you and to whoever killed you. The small things like that, they give that extra sense of motion and coolness. White screen flash for extra impact emphasis. So let's say something huge happens, like a giant rock drops down on the game field. If you have a small, like just a white screen for like a frame in the game, it just makes it feel more like, oh, what was that? So yeah, that's an easy trick, super easy trick, or easy tricks, all of these. So, to make this even slightly a sound talk, so yeah, we use sounds to inform player. Again, using sounds more for like UI purposes as well, so that we can minimize the use of UI by introducing sounds and weird visuals. So different enemy spawns, for instance. We have this arena, and you can't see the whole arena at once. So you run around, and you only see a portion like around you. And we have like sounds for different enemy spawns. So you might hear like, and you're like, oh, that's a demon boy spawning. Or if you're like, you're like, oh, that's a wizard spawning. And even though you don't see them, you hear them, and you now acknowledge that they are in the level somewhere. And of course, we have like left and right panning. So you're like, oh, it's somewhere in the left. And then when they shoot and stuff, or like attack, you can hear like a small anticipation for attack, like, and when you hear like, you're like, okay, I need to dodge. Or like if you hear like, you know, oh, a wizard shot somewhere. So yeah, using sounds to just inform basic stuff like that. The shotgun reloading, like the machine gun reloads with the shotgun, that doesn't really need an extra sound, but like the shotgun itself, it's a slow weapon to shoot. So we just use, when you shoot a shotgun, we just use like a, and you're like, oh, now I'm reloaded again, and then you can use the shotgun again. Just like using simple things like that to inform player make a huge difference. For upgrades and interactions, like I mentioned, the game has a bunch of upgrades for the shotgun and interactions, and there's a small sound cue per upgrade. So let's say I want to do the fire upgrade thing. It will notify me by a sound, hey, I triggered the fire upgrade path thingy. Or if I shoot through electricity, it will do a small electric sound, so I know, oh, I'm going to level up my electric thing and so on and so on. And same with the interactions. If you hear like a wall crumbling in the distance, you know, oh, there's probably no wall over there anymore. Music fading before a boss spawn to give sense that a boss is spawning. So I have like music, and it starts to fade now as closer to a boss spawn. It's like, and you're like, oh no, it's gonna be a boss. And you're like, oh shit, I felt that. And the music changes, of course, for bosses. All the bosses have their own themes, and even after the boss is dead, they have their own song, like own post-boss music, that gives you a sense that now that the level has changed, and now the background track is different, it feels like it's a new level. And oddly enough, it actually does work. The human brain is sometimes easily tricked, but not always. Music is 120 BPM throughout the game to keep the feel familiar through the game. It's a bit like a mixtape in a sense. Like if you go to a show and you're like, oh yeah, this is nice, and then suddenly puts like a music, you're like, oh wow. Suddenly you're in a different world. But if it's like, and you're like, this feels the same. So I'm doing the same in this game where all the tracks are 120 BPM. Again, kind of making also the composing process simple to me. And, you know, it just all feels really familiar and feels the same. And then I also have the machine gun play like, roughly like triplets, 420 BPM. So when music's like dang, 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 and you shoot, it's like ta 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 ta. And also the machine gun fires slowly the closer you are to depleting the clip. So you can already like kind of feel from the beat that I'm going to be out of ammo soon. So it's like, and when you feel that, you're like, oh wow, I'm out of bullets. Again, kind of using sound for UI instead of UI for UI. Oh, visual UI. Using vocal tones to bring some character to character. This might sound a bit dumb, but it's not. So, like the character taunts the enemies, like fuck you, suck it, and stuff like that. And it's a female character, by the way. And so no Donald Trump happening here. So the character shouts stuff, just brings more feeling to the character. Like imagine Super Mario being like, you'd be like, eh. But when he's like, woohoo, wahoo, you're like, oh wow, Super Mario's a happy dude, isn't he? That already brings so much character, just having that small vocal thing happening. It's a small thing, but at the same time, it's a huge thing. That's pretty obvious, but you know, it's felt like putting out there. So, woohoo, that was pretty much my presentation. So I'll show you the game real quick before QA. If you want to see the game, that is. Yes, woohoo. Awkward moment, diverted. Did I start the game already? Yes, I did. Eh? So yeah, that's the 3 enemies spawning already. They already teach me like, oh wow. Camera zooming. Oh, that's who killed me. Oh, also the enemies have randomized names and like shredded by the competent. That's also randomized out of a pool. And then we have a few syllables that create the names. Sometimes you might get a bit awkward names, but this one was a pretty neutral one though. Death Body.
Fucking do this!
As you can see here, those small UI things popping up. Wally, slug, stuff like that. That's again like just kind of minimizing but still giving you a sense of progress. Oh no, sugar. Let's see if I'm gonna make it to the boss. Remember that this is still work in progress, so we are missing about the effects and stuff. So here's the level changing mechanics kind of happening with this boss. Here. And now these are permanent for the rest of the round. Yeah. Murder by the Unfathomable Crispy. Oh, that's Rice Krispies' evil brother. So yeah, nice. So yeah, let's... Have you got time for a QA? No. So Q&A if you see me in the hallways. Thank you.
Thank you, Joonas. And I think everyone else, everyone will see you once again.